different, what happens? Examples, think about this. What if Edison had gotten 100 of his friends together and said, hey, listen, I'm going to invent this thing called a light bulb and electricity. They would have said, what? What's that? He said, well, you know, I'm going to invent this thing called electricity, and it's going to run through this wire. When you flip the switch on the wall, it's going to run through the wire. It's going to hit this thing called an incandescent bulb that I'm going to invent, and then darkness will turn to light instantly. What would his friends have said? You mean after you light the candles? No. This thing called electricity is going to run through the wall, through this wire, hit this thing called a bulb, and it's going to be instant light. What would his friends have done? They would have laughed. They would have said, you're crazy. That'll never work. Because that's what society does to people who are trying to look into the future. How about the Wright brothers? The Wright brothers get their 100 friends together and they say, hey, we're going to learn to fly. We're going to build something called an airplane. Yeah, we're going to design the wing so that the airflow goes over this wing and creates lift. And we're going to suck the plane up into the air. Doesn't sound real today, does it? No. And we know it works. Right? What would his friends have said?
Crazy.
You're crazy. That'll never work. How about another example? Back in 1859, a guy named Marconi, good old Italian boy, he gets his friends together. He says, hey, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to invent this thing called a radio. All right? They said, what's that? He says, well, I'm going to invent this thing called a modulator, and then I'm going to invent this thing called a microphone, and you're going to speak into the microphone. It's going to go into the modulator. The modulator is going to make the air vibrate, and this vibrating air is going to hit this thing I invent called a radio, and you're going to hear voices and music and singing over this radio, miles away, hundreds of miles away. Huh?
Crazy.
What would his friends have said?
Crazy.
Batso, you're crazy. That'll never happen. But the way things happen is by all those people who are willing to jump out of this box. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
It's the people who want to be different. It's the people who want to produce. And of course, we got multitude of examples, modern day examples, from going to the moon to inventing internets to whatever. But it's always the people who try to jump out of this box, but they're also always put down on. Same for us. It was the same for me. What's the first thing? The moment I tried to jump out of this box and I wanted to be a little different, what's the first thing that happens? You try. You get involved in the business. And the moment you try something different, here come the first stage of attack, your family. Yes, usually it's your family. No offense, maybe yours is different. In mine, it was the family. Right? They laughed at me for wanting to do something different. You're going to get into what? A soap business? Soapy? Bubbles? Mr. Clean, they called me? That's the first business I joined, was a soap business. They laughed at me. They criticized me. I had my one of my brother-in-laws came up to me one day. This was very early on. Said, Rudy, my mother's sister's daughter's brother's sister's father's son's daughter's brother's sister's father's mother's aunt was in a business like that up in Michigan. Yeah, she lost a lot of money in that deal. You understand?
Yeah.
And they tried to put me down. And then all of a sudden, and by the way, this attack, when you lose a lot of your new people, this is where the attack came from, right? They can't get past this first level, many of them. But if they get past the first level, and they get past trying, they become a little above average. Now things are going a little better. Pretty soon the family says, oh, hey, that's my brother. Oh yeah, look, I always knew he'd do good. I always told him that he'd be terrific, right? And pretty soon they come along, would you loan me some money? Got the idea? Okay, now they're all of a sudden proud of you, right? And by the way, he who laughs last laughs best. Because when I finally did well, and I bought my first new car, it was a Lincoln Continental. Now this is 1970, by then it was 72, I think. And do you remember those Lincoln Continentals had that long hood?
Yeah.
And they had a hump on the trunk?
Yeah.
Right? bought one of those things with my first brand new car that I bought after I got into business and started to make some money. And that thing was beautiful. It was a rust brown bottom. It had a white leather top, white leather interior. It was gorgeous. Now I wouldn't buy it today, but it looked great. Well, you know what I did with that thing? The first thing I did was I drove that thing home and I took white shoe polish. You know that stuff with the dabber on the end? I knew it wouldn't hurt my car because we used to use it at the racetrack to write on the windshields and stuff. So I take the shoe polish and I write on the side, this rust-colored car, white shoe polish, there's hope in soap. And I drove that car right over to my brother-in-law's house and I didn't stop in his driveway, I parked right up on the front lawn. I went up to the door and I knocked on the door and I said, look at that. And he said, well, you were lucky. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, but if you keep going and now you get above average and you start doing a little better, here comes the relatives. That's the next stage. Hey, you used to come to all the parties. You used to come to all the family events. Last weekend, Sally's mother's sister's daughter's cousin got married and you didn't show up. You were at some dumb meeting in Louisvilke. You understand?
Yeah.
You never have time for the family anymore. You're always going to those dumb meetings, right? But if you keep going, you can get past them. And pretty soon you start having some success. And then what happens? Well, here pretty soon the relatives come along. Oh, I always knew you'd do good.
Oh.
I knew it. Would you loan me some money? By the way, that's not a joke. I wish I could. No, I don't want to tell you a negative story about all the money that's been loaned. That doesn't come back, by the way. All right? All right, but if you get to this level, then you keep going and you finally succeed and you're doing good. Here come the closest friends. Rudy, you used to show up at Frank's Tavern all the time, throw darts, shoot pool with us. You never show up anymore. You're at those dumb meetings all the time. You understand?
Yeah.
And they start to criticize you. Because if they're not willing to try, not your friends, this is my friends. When they weren't willing to try, what did they do? They tried to put down on me for trying. Because if I made it and they weren't willing to try, how did it make them look? Bad. You understand? Now, I know your friends are different. This is my friends. But if you can get past these attacks from family, relatives, and friends, and you really get going, then the attack, now you got big success, now you really get the attack coming. Here's what happens. Now the government starts the attack because the IRS, when I was broke, the IRS didn't know I was alive or dead. They didn't care. Right? All of a sudden you start making some money, they're sleeping in your bed.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. I mean, you've got to hire lawyers and accountants and professional people. It costs more. It costs more to send my taxes in every year than I used to make. You understand?
Yeah.
Because they start, and there are regulations and laws and courts because they want to control you. They want to get you back down in the box. The family wanted to put you where?
The box.
Back in the box. The relatives want to put you where? Back in the box. The friends, back in a box. The government, back in a box. We can't control you if you're out of the box. But if you get past this level, there's actually another level. Yeah, now you get so big that you become one of the good guys because now you start influencing the government. Yes, when you become, the Googles and the Apples and the Amazons, and pretty soon what do they have? They have all these lobbyists in Congress, right, in Washington, D.C., telling the government what to do now. So that's kind of what happens. But the plan is they want to get you back to be average, to be like everybody else, that don't make waves, so don't try. And I'm not saying to you, maybe your friends and family are different, but I'm telling you, that's what happened to me. And so here's my message to you folks. When you leave this room and you get out there and somebody that you talk to says, what? Why are you doing something like that? Are you crazy? I've heard of those things. Don't do that. Your job is to say, no, not the box. Don't put me back in the box. And that's good. See, when you do that, they're going to think you're crazy, and they'll leave you alone. So So next time someone says, you can't, it won't work, you can't do it, you say, not the box. Folks, don't ever let somebody put you back down in that box. That is not you. You can be what